So there were lots of requests to India because we had done this gigantic project called Aadhaar. Lots of countries of the world, many countries visited India, looked at Aadhaar, held conversation with developers of Aadhaar and said, we would want a similar system. Can you please give us Aadhaar? But Aadhaar is a proprietary system. It's a monolith, and to fine-tune Aadhaar for various countries is a Herculean task, because each country has their own law with respect to data protection, law with respect to privacy. So Government of India in general was saying that no, we cannot allow Aadhaar to be used because it will really not fit with you. Aadhaar was designed specifically for India. It can't really be, it is not plug and play. So we started at the IIIT Bangalore that why not in open source put a complete identity system. So there were few objectives for us. What we wanted to do was we wanted to provide a platform, not a solution. Because solution will be different for different countries. It has to fit within the laws of that particular country. If Philippines wants a solution, it has to adhere to Philippines Identity Act. If Morocco wants a solution, it has to adhere to Moroccan laws. If Argentina or Peru or Mexico wants it, it has to. So we are not providing a solution. We are providing a platform on which countries can build their solutions to meet their requirement. So first is it's open source. Second is it's a platform. And third is because we have used these 10 principles of digital identity, security and privacy are by design. They are not afterthought. Every module which we have done, security and privacy are integrated into the development of the module and tested for that purpose. For example, if a country says that I am adhering to GDPR regulations, and which is one of the data protection privacy regulations which is widely used now, we have a way by which saying how you can make your solution using MOSIP GDPR compliant. If somebody else says I have different data protection and privacy, we would have a playbook by which they can make it amenable to that act. And the reasons why, and third thing which I want to tell is this is modular. For example, if there is a country says I don't trust or I don't want this biometric, I don't want to capture people's iris or face or fingerprint, but I want an identity system without biometric, they can build an identity system without biometric. They can, like a Lego block, they can assemble their own system, pick something, drop something. If somebody says that I don't want to print credential like this Aadhaar card, there is possibility. Or if somebody says that I want to print a smart card, we provide an interface for a smart card printing. So it is modular, it is open source, and it's a platform. That's why we termed it as MOSIP. And countries are now getting interested in doing MOSIP. Second thing is that we have designed the system in such a way it is easy to integrate. I said in the beginning that it is only a platform and not a solution. So a solution builder, a solution architect or a system integrator have to build a solution. So we have, and certain components of the IT identity solution we are now not building. We might build, we might request you people to contribute because it is open source for some of those components, but in the first version, some of those things which we are not building. One is that we are not building the hardware that is required, that is the fingerprint scanner or a iris scanner or a camera or that we are not doing. We are basically saying that here is the interface, these are our requirements, any device this matches the requirement will plug and play with our system. You can buy the device from anybody, and we are actually testing a number of device manufacturers. There are about 28, 30 of them in the world. They are giving their devices. We are testing, saying how well it integrates with the MOSI platform. And another piece of code which we don't write is something called ABIS, which is Automated Biometric Identification System, which will do the deduplication. That is, for example, if you take Aadhaar, I now register for Aadhaar in Bangalore, and 2 days later I travel to Tumkur and I register for Aadhaar. It should be able to say that you have already registered. And that job is done by an ABIS system. So the ABIS requirements are very steep. For example, we have now 1.3 billion people on Aadhaar. It should be able to search out that 1.3 billion people in a matter of a few hours and say you are already registered. So ABIS we are not building now. We are saying that ABIS, our system can integrate with a multiplicity of ABIS that is available in the world. And a country is free to choose the ABIS it likes, a country is free to choose the device which it likes, and they can integrate. That's why I said that designed for easy integration. And it is completely configurable. There are various components which can be configurable. For example, what data is being collected. If you remember, most of you must have done Aadhaar registration. They collect data like name, address, date of birth, gender. These are the data that is collected in Aadhaar. Different countries have got different requirement for data gathering. For example, the Philippines ID system, they also want to collect blood group. It should be available in the ID system. So what we have done is that every aspect of such design, what is the ID object, what is the format in which the final ID credential will be printed, they are all configurable, completely configurable. So a system integrator will be able to take our platform, integrate with devices, ABIS, and configure it in such a way that it could be easily done. It could be also multilingual. For example, in Morocco, with whom we have an MOU to distribute this system, help their SI to build this system, it has to be both in Arabic and French. Whereas in Philippines, it's in English. So it is configurable for the language, for the object, for the credential, for a number of such things. And we have designed this system essentially. The version 1.0 is available on GitHub for the last few months. And if you go to A23, is the stall where Krishnan and others are there who would be able to give you a lot more. So that basically we have created now, first version 1.0. So I discussed about it, configurability. We use open standards. It is modular. It is secure by design. It is scalable. We have every component horizontally scalable. Every single component, whether it is a pre-registration, whether it is a registration, or whether it is a identity number allocation, the random number allocation, or it is deduplication, or printing the credential, each one of these components are independently horizontally scalable. And we have kept a track. It is easy for auditing. It's easy to monitor, test, and upgrade. But we have also provided privacy by design data as a service. There are certain things in the version 1.0 which we have not done, and that is some opportunity for the open source community to contribute. One is analytics. We have not provided a module for analytics. So I think that is one big area where we would welcome contribution. Second thing which we have not built is fraud detection. Fraud detection module has not yet been built, which is again out in the open and anybody could contribute to these kinds of modules. So the modules currently available on the GitHub is pre-registration, which is where you book a slot to go and register yourself and provide some basic information. That module is available. Registration module is available, whether it is online or offline. Fingerprint, iris, and photograph is what we have now built. and it is configurable in the field. We have built registration processor. Registration processor does the generation of the random number that is required as UIN, and it also does, it works with the deduplication of the abyss and provides that number. Then we have built in the authentication. That is, after a UIN is allotted, unique identity number, when you want to use it for some purpose, either to get your ration or to get a telephone connection or open a bank account, the identity authentication module has also been built in. So it's available for that. And what we have done is, it's a completely resident controlled privacy. For example, what we have built in, you don't want your biometrics to be used, you can switch off use of biometrics. You may have given the biometric, you might have got a number, but then you don't want your biometrics to be used for authentication purpose for some time. You can switch on and switch off as much as you want. Second is, when you do say eKYC for open a bank account or for any other purpose, you can determine what is the field that will be communicated to the bank or to other user. If it is a ration shop, what are the fields that will be communicated to the ration shop owner? If it's a bank, what are the fields? Will you want to share date of birth? Will you want to share your address? Will you want to share your blood group, as in case of say Philippines? Or will you want to share your name completely? So each field can be switched on and switched off. Not only generally and for a specific purpose, saying for this user don't share this. So you can configure it in that fashion. Third thing what we have done saying that you need not use UIN. You can have a pseudo or what we call as a virtual UIN generated for a purpose. We have also created a module by which, for example, you can generate a QR code and use the QR code instead of UIN, instead of that say card or any other credential, show the QR code for the purpose of authentication. Not necessarily your fingerprint or iris, just a QR code. QR code will authenticate you. And QR code will have the kind of data that is required for authentication. So we are building more. For example, I want to now say Professor Tangaraju and his students have developed a face authentication system. They are testing it. So we might introduce that instead of fingerprint authentication, use face authentication, which is simpler because all you need is no device, you need a phone with a camera. So that kind of thing is available now in the open source, that each one is configurable. We would welcome you to test it out, to see our code, how efficiently we have written the code, what is it that we still can do, how we can improve. Can you contribute to some of these things which I said we have not built? So the architecture is, this is what we have done as architecture. That is, one is a pre-registration where we have got booking of the slot where a person can go and register himself at an appropriate registration center. So it's basically a scheduling module. And the scheduling module gives you, at the time of scheduling, you fill in some data so that you don't have to do that again at the time of registration. It will speed up the activity of registration. At the registration, there is a provision to validate your demographics, then biometrics, that is fingerprint, iris and face are the three biometrics which we are using. Say for example, we have not built any voice biometrics, but there may be a scope at a future date to have voice biometrics as one of the authentication or one of the identity. We don't have it as of now. And another thing I want to say is that in the demographics, it's so configurable that in some countries, they would want the supporting proof. Let's say you say address. Where is the address proof? You can scan them and then upload them. So that is we have provided. But in some countries, they may not want any document to be preserved or saved. They will trust the people to give the data. So it's configurable in that sense. And then we have the registration processor where the deduplication takes place. and we do the identity generator. So this whole thing is on a kernel. So we have security, we have privacy, audit and log, language, both translation and transliteration, notification engine to send SMS and email, and master data. So this is our technology stack. This is all what we have used. We have used all the open source technology stack and the open source standards. Each one of our component is standard compliant. What component is compliant with what standard? Krishnan is here, he would answer that. But each one of our components are standard compliant, and we have used all these things. And MOSIP 1.0 is available for download under MPL 2.0 license. We did not go to the GNU GPL 2.0 license for a simple reason that any commercial enterprises who might want to write applications over the MOSIP code but want to keep their application proprietary, MPL 2.0 permits that. They had to only distribute the MOSIP code and MOSIP documentation as open source documentation. If they have built, like for example, if a bank has built a loan portfolio over and top of the MOSIP, it can secure their loan application as a separate entity. In GPL, that would also will have to get back to open source. So we have finally taken a decision that we will release it under MPL 2.0. So all of you are welcome to download, test, give feedback, join our effort, and contribute to this thing. And what we are now saying is core technology is the MOSIP platform. System integrator will customize it for a country, configure it for a country, and deliver it. And on top of it, you will have a lot of ID linked services. The ID linked services could be education, in health, in fintech, in ration distribution, or it could be a very simple eKYC. But all those country specific ID linked services, each country there will be enterprises, companies, startups which will be building on that. So we are building an open source community. One is there is opportunity for students to come and intern with us from anywhere between 10 weeks to 25, 26 weeks. We had some 10 women engineers from Varda and Nuzvid in the summer which went by, and we are getting about 5 students from Myanmar to work with us. And code is in GitHub, and I had already suggested about what all can be done. You can send a mail at community.mosip.io, and this thing is also there. These are how do you get involved with MOSIP. So I'll stop here. Because Aadhaar is, as I said, is monolithic, proprietary. So we are not advocating this as antidote to Aadhaar. We say here is a system which is open, configurable, completely in open source. Whichever country wants it, we will help them. So 2 countries have so far come and signed MOU with IIITB. One is Morocco, another is Philippines. In fact, Philippines engineers are today with IIITB. We are setting up a sandbox for them in Manila. The sandbox, they want to test it with 5,000 people. Morocco is talking to some system integrator. So we would help any country in the world, or it need not be even country. In fact, UN High Commissioner for Refugees is in conversation with us to provide this platform, so that UN High Commission for Refugees handle currently about 1 million refugees across the world, and they do not have a good ID system. So they are in talk with us saying that how do we implement into an ID system for UN High Commissioner for Refugees. The World Food Program is talking to us. They provide food assistance to about 10 million people across the world in all kinds of geographies. They are talking to us. So there can be many. Rhode Island is in discussion with us. For their state, they want to have an identity system apart from the social security number, so they are talking about that. So we don't know what is Aadhaar. We have no idea. We know what Aadhaar does. All of us know. what is there inside Aadhaar, we do not know. Though a lot of people who have worked in Aadhaar between 2009 and 2014 are helping us. They are talking to us, they are looking at our code, they are reviewing our code, they are telling us how to go about doing certain things. We have quite a few people who have contributed to Aadhaar, contributing to this open source effort.
Sir, one of the shortcomings we have seen in identification procedure in Aadhaar related to fingerprint and iris detection, specifically with super senior citizens,
Yep.
like 80 years plus. So, how do you kind of propose to
what we have
resolve
provided,
that?
I will tell you, but that's for a country to decide. We have, as we are saying, you can go without biometric identification. We says we are providing a QR code. So a person can print a QR code for a particular purpose and go and show the QR code, and the QR code can be scanned by a mobile phone and the details is given. This QR code is printed only when the person does some kind of a transaction. A second thing what we are also saying, we are, as we said, Professor Tangaraju has built that face authentication system. So we are working with such things like that. We know that fingerprints failure rate. In fact, I can tell you Aadhaar design failure rate, acceptable failure rate for fingerprint machine is with 3 fingers, one after another tested. They accept devices with about 5% rejection rate. So if a person, so what it can go up to is if a particular user, let's say a ration shop person doesn't allow you to test with 3 fingers, but allows you to test only with 1 finger, it could be as high as 15%. Because every device there will be an acceptance rate. What is acceptance? You know, you have the false acceptance ratio and this thing, false positive and false negative. So that is one thing. So what we are saying is we will build multiple such things. I said we have not yet started with voice biometrics. Some countries says we don't want biometric identification, authentication, we will do something else. So for them, the QR code will become very useful.
Sir, and what are your views on Aadhaar, which has transformed from a foundational identity now to a functional identity, and probably in the future it may transform into a surveillance ID?
On surveillance, I have no answer because I don't know the architecture, whether it is surveillance friendly. I'm not sure. Unless we know the architecture to rate it, whether it is surveillance friendly or surveillance unfriendly, we cannot make any comment on the surveillance. Any ID for that matter, how it is to be used is the decision of the government of that country. For example, in Morocco, this MOSIP is not going to have biometric, because under the Morocco law, biometric can be captured only by the police. Nobody else can capture biometric. And police has a system called CNIE under the Act for the fingerprint and biometric capture and use in the police purposes. So this MOSIP in Morocco will not have biometric. Okay. Surveillance, how we are preventing surveillance in MOSIP is very simple, that we are having a security architecture reside and controlled. Like for example, if I switch off authentication for 3 months, no data can be transferred to anybody in that 3 months. So we are making every process, whether it is the process of authentication, process of sharing data, process of registration, everything reside and control. Second thing what we have done is that every packet is encrypted right at the time of creation of the packet. Like for example, that if you are doing the fingerprint, it is encrypted in the device, it is encrypted in the transmission, and it is encrypted in the storage. So anybody snooping, we are trying to prevent. But the question which finally comes is that whether any system can be used for surveillance. Forget about ID system. Can I use the credit card system for surveillance? You are swiping credit card left and right, and where you swipe, what you buy is all very well known. Can say MasterCard and Visa card surveillance on the people? Yes. The question is not that systems can be made non-surveillance, because to transact some purposes you share some data. The data is available with. That was a accusation on the Facebook that they shared the data which is not supposed to be shared to Cambridge Analytica, or Cambridge Analytica stole the data, which one is not sure of the thing. But the thing is that no system can be made, in my opinion, others can debate, 100% surveillance proof. It is something, the mythical bug-free software. I don't think there is any software which has ever been made in the world which is bug-free. Similarly, I don't think there could be any computing system or any data storage system. Forget about computing. Our land records, let's say in a country where land records are not computed, that can also be shared, tampered with, shared. So I don't think, what we have to look at is how much of control is there with the citizen. Do I have control on a number of things? Do I have control saying, don't give this data from this date to this date, or don't use biometric for authentication, don't give these fields of my data, like my date of birth, to anybody? Do I have control? If we can build system with such kind of control, surveillance, I would not say is impossible, but become difficult.
So my question is around the same subject. I read through the GitHub repository which you just described, and I read that it is all a centralized architecture.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, why did you not opt for a decentralized architecture
Propose.
such as blockchain?
Why don't you take it up and do? In fact, we are discussing blockchain. There is a blockchain council which is working with us on trying to make this architecture on a blockchain in a distributed, but that will be MOSIP 2.0. It is in our agenda. Well, you can join and do it.
So, yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Because we can have smart contracts and...
Yeah. But we are working with, there is a blockchain council in USA. Tomika Tillman is the director of blockchain council. Tomika Tillman has visited us twice, has spent a lot of time with us, and he is thinking in terms of how do they make MOSIP blockchain version, what all people can do in that. So there would be, you could write, let's say, a request. You can put an, let's say, what we call as a document saying what features should that have, so that others can contribute. We are not against blockchain. We are not against, say, there is another concept called self-sovereign identity. I don't know how many of you know about self-sovereign identity. California has in fact put out an RFP for self-sovereign identity. We are not against any one of those systems. We started, as I said, on March 2018. And we needed a lot of money to do this. And the funds have come from three major charities: Tata Trusts, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Omidyar Network. Our deliverable to these three foundations is that in a matter of 3 years, that is by 2021, we will try to convince at least 3 countries to build their systems using MOSIP. So we are focusing on that. We are focusing on helping Philippines to deliver something. We are focusing on Morocco to deliver something. Guinea, Krishnan just returned from Guinea. So Guinea wants to do something. So we are focusing on that. So we have one, what I would call as a basic version 1.0, but all of you are welcome. For very purpose of putting it out in open source, I think this is the first identity system we have put it out is anywhere in the world which is on the open source. There is no other identity system on the open source. There is now, because we have gone to identity system on open source, some of the proprietary vendors have now started developing a kind of APIs which are open source. There is a movement called OSIA, Open Source Identity Alliance, and what they are doing is they are creating, they are all the vendors of the device, they are creating APIs which are standards based and open source based, but not the code. Even today, we are the only code that is available on identity in the open